Good evening, everybody. Today we are going to learn about medical devices and the global classification. So today's session basically you have to understand how the medical devices are registered globally. Globally means in US, Europe, and most of the other regulated and semi-regulated markets. So don't expect that this session will cover everything about the medical devices. Okay. So to begin with, we are going to cover the overview of medical devices and how it is classified in US FDA, in Europe, what is CE marking, what is meant by competent authority, what is meant by notified body, how the medical devices are classified under TGA Australia, Health Canada, Japan, Middle East region, Saudi Arabia, UAE. So these are the major countries we have taken from globe. So before starting in details about the medical devices registration, let us understand about the definition, because this definition is very long and everyone should understand the definition in detail, because medical devices is the upcoming field and I want everyone to understand in depth, because there is a huge and great future for all the candidates working in pharma industry to make the career in medical devices industry. So let us begin with the definition. Medical devices is any instrument, any apparatus, implement, machine, appliance, implant, in vitro reagents or calibrator, software, material, or other similar or related article which is intended by the company and its manufacturing site to be used alone or in combination for human being for one or more of the specific purposes of. So these specific purposes are so many, so you have to understand. Apart from the common terminology of diagnosis, prevention, mitigation, what we learned in drug definition is different for the medical devices. So again, medical devices is an instrument, apparatus, or machine or appliances or reagent, in vitro reagent, I mean to say, calibrator, software, everything which is used for the intended use is very important, which is used for diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, treatment, or alleviation of disease, diagnosis, monitoring, treatment, alleviation of or compensation for an injury, investigation, replacement, modification, or support of the anatomy or of a physiological process. So I hope you understood this definition. Why I am repeating again and again? Because this definition is very important to understand further classification of medical devices based on the risk. So all medical devices are categorized based on the risk, whether it is low risk, moderate risk, or high risk. So again, coming back to definition, it is a device specifically intended purpose is for diagnosis, monitoring, treatment, alleviation of or compensation for an injury, investigation, replacement, modification, or support of the anatomy or of a physiological process. Or it could be used for supporting or sustaining life. Control of conception. You might have heard about copper T, which is used for the control of conception. Disinfection of medical devices, right? So many devices are used just to disinfectant, as a disinfectant for the medical devices. So those disinfectant will also categorize under medical devices. Then some medical devices are used for indicate the sterilization process completion. So it is used as a solution or in the form of sterilization process completion. Then those devices which are used for providing information for medical or diagnostic purposes by means of in vitro examination of specimens derived from the human body. So now during this COVID, you might have heard about the antibodies, antigens which are taken out and diagnosed, and it is separated by using some solution. So diagnostic kits, rapid test kits are using as a medical device. So the understanding of definition is very important, though it is a big definition. So to continue with the definition, it is again intended and used for which does not achieve its primary intended action in or on the human body by pharmacological, immunological, or metabolic means, but which may be assisted in its intended function by such. Then medical devices, accessories. So some accessories could also be used as in medical devices. So accessories intended specifically by the manufacturers to be used together with a parent medical device to enable that medical device to achieve its intended purpose should be subject to the same procedure as applied to the medical device itself. So for example, an accessory will be classified as though it is a medical device in its own right. So this may result in the accessory having a different classification than the parent device. So you must have seen the inhalers used for the asthmatic patient. So some accessories are used to inhale the pump, and other accessories are used to inhale the medicine. So those kind of medical devices comes under this category. Then some components to medical devices are generally controlled through the manufacturer's quality management system and the conformity assessment procedure for the device. So in some jurisdictions, components are included in the definition of the medical device. So now you learned so big definition of medical devices and its accessories. It's not still over, still it continues. Medical devices are the products which may be considered to be medical device in some jurisdiction, but for which there is not yet a harmonized approach. Which are those? Those are aids for disabled, handicapped people. You might have seen wheelchairs, you might have seen beds with the lots of medical equipment. So these are the medical equipment which are also categorized under medical devices. Then devices for the treatment, diagnosis of disease and injuries in animals. So animals are also are using for the animals also some medical devices are used. Then the accessories for medical devices, disinfection substances. Now you might have seen due to lots of coronaviruses, all the equipments, all the surfaces are going to clean. So there are wipes coming up in the market, surface wipes, which is called. So it will come under the medical devices again. So devices incorporating animal and human tissues which may meet the requirement of the above definition but are subject to different controls. Then the definition of a device for in vitro examination includes, for example, reagents, calibrators, sample collection and storage devices, control materials, and related instruments or apparatus. The information provided in such as in vitro diagnostic device may be for diagnostic, monitoring, or compatibility purposes. In some jurisdictions, some in vitro diagnostic devices, including reagents and the like, may be covered by separate regulations. So I hope you understood the definition of medical devices. You could see the different types of medical devices captured in this image. Can you see wheelchair, intraocular lenses will also come under the medical devices. Then pacemaker, you must have seen used for the heart. Then hip replacement, knee replacement, Then there are stents. Then there are total elbow replacement. You must have seen the ECG machine, MRI machine, deep brain stimulator. There are so many items comes under the medical devices. I hope you understood the definition. So these are the examples of medical devices like bandages, medical thermometer. Now you have seen the medical thermometer have come with the IR sensor because of COVID. So lots of opportunities, in the medical devices. Now the PPE kit, the nose mask, and everything will come under the medical devices. So then the stethoscope, disposable gloves, MRI machine, ultrasound machine, CT scan, implants, prosthesis. You might have gone to dentist. So lots of items, the equipment, the machineries are used by the dentist as well. You must have seen. So all those things comes under medical devices. So let us see how the US FDA classify all the medical devices. So these classification are always based on the risk associated with the device. So there are three types of devices. So US FDA classifies as a class 1, class 2 and class 3. So class 1 is always a low risk devices like a bandage, tape and all other items. Class 2 could be higher risk, I mean to say the moderate risk, sorry, and class 3 is a higher risk. So this is a typo error. Class 2 is a moderate risk and class 3 is a highest risk. Here we have written the higher risk and the highest risk. So it is understood that. So as compared to low risk, it is little higher and then it is a highest risk. So typically you have to remember US FDA classifies into three: class 1, class 2, class 3. So how do we register medical devices in US FDA? We have to see in brief the regulatory approval process in US FDA. So what is the step one? Step one is always you have to classify. So you have to check under US FDA classification database your medical device which you are going to take the marketing approval, you are going to register, you are going to make the dossier falls under which category? Which category? How you will find? First of all, you have to determine the classification of your device by researching the predicate device. Predicate device means what? In pharma industry, we call it as reference, standard, and the test. So the test is your product and reference is somebody else based on which you have developed your product. So in case of medical device, we call it as predicate device, which is already been developed by somebody else and which is already available into market. So we have to see that which all predicate devices are there similar to our own product and you have to categorize. So how the other client has categorized those devices. Say for example, IR thermometer, I want to get the marketing approval in US FDA. So I will look into 4 5 IR thermometer and I will select from the big brands and I will see how they must have taken the approval and under which category they must have categorized. So under US FDA, you will get the full list of medical devices which is already been marketed in US FDA. So first step is very important. You have to classify based on the predicate devices. Second step is implement quality management system. So like in pharma industry, we call it a GMP, good manufacturing practices. So in medical devices, we call it as quality management system. So QMS is very, very important to implement in medical device industry, which meets the FDA quality system regulation, which is also called as QSR, as per 21 CFR Part 820. This Part 820 is very important when we talk about US FDA. Like in GMP, we call it as Part 210 and 211. For electronic submission, we call it as 21 CFR Part 11. Like that, 21 CFR Part 820 belongs to quality management system and quality system regulation, that is QSR, as per CFR parts and which is applicable in US. So this is also commonly known as FDA's good manufacturing practice. So if you want to compare with the drug, our drug product, it is as good as 21 CFR part 211 and 210. So the quality management system, better to remember this term QSR and QMS. Then after predicate device, you see to your quality management system. The third process is innovative. Class 2 and all class 3 devices will likely require clinical studies. So if your device is of low class, the low risk category, then you need not to go for clinical evidence or the clinical trials. But as you go to higher and highest risk, that is class 2 and class 3, which obviously require clinical studies. So you have to get the pre-submission feedback from the FDA. Now suppose if you have already decided to go for pacemaker. Pacemaker is a very critical, the stent is very critical and very complex medical device which will fall under class 3, which is very complex. So you have to write an email to US FDA and ask for the feedback before registration. Okay, so you have to get the pre-submission, that is called pre-sub feedback. So you can directly write an email to US FDA and get their feedback, get their suggestions, and then if clinical studies will be required, apply for an investigational device exemption developed. Okay, so if clinical studies will be required, apply for an investigational device exemption, that is called IDE. Then develop clinical trial protocol and conduct studies. So simple, if your device is classified into class 3 device, you get better you confirm with the US FDA whether I have to go for the clinical trials, develop your protocol, or suppose FDA revert back that no, you don't require the clinical trials and we have the sufficient data, this device has been proven very safe. So that is very good, you can save your time and your money, so that you need not to go for the investigational the clinical trial. There you get the investigational device exemption. So to get the IDE you have to better confirm with the US FDA. Then for class 2 device, prepare and submit 510K pre-market notification application, that is pay 510K fees or PMA submission fees. And for class 3 device, prepare and submit pre-market approval application, pay PMA submission fee to FDA. So for class 2, prepare and submit 510K. 510K is nothing but how we call it as IND, NDA, NDA. So it is for medical device in US FDA, the category 2 medical devices, we call it as 510K pre-market notification application. So this number is very important because it starts with the K0001. Like in ANDA, how we get the number 6-digit number from US FDA, like that 510K application when we submit, we get the 6-digit number from US FDA starting with K, and that is why it is called as 510K application. The next step, for class 3 devices, FDA conduct facility inspection for all major suppliers involved in the design and production of your device. All parties must be compliant with FDA's QSR. So obviously, when it is a highest risk device, FDA will conduct the facility inspection. Okay, and they will come and see whether your quality management system is robust, whether you are manufactured by following all 21 CFR 820 parts or not. So how we conduct the GMP inspection during our FDA for drug products. So similar way here also FDA comes for the inspection of your facility and check your quality management system as per 21 CFR part 820. Then for class 4 class 2 device, the FDA issues 510K clearance letter and post it online. So similar way, once we get the approval, they post it on their website and we get that 510K number. And for class 3, the FDA issues PMA approval letter and post it online. PMA means pre-market approval. Then at this time, you must be in full compliance with USR. The FDA will not inspect class 1 or 2 device manufacturers for compliance prior to device registration, but does conduct random inspection and can issue Form 483 for non-compliance. So pretty straightforward they have mentioned. If you do not meet any, if you are non-compliant, if you do not follow the quality management system as defined in 21 CFR Part 820, then you are going to get the 483 for the non-compliance. So if you have no local presence in US, you have to appoint your US agent. That is a mandatory requirement. And also there is one more requirement, your firm has to register. So FEI, that is firm establishment, has to be there prior to application. So whenever there are medical devices filing is done, we have to first ensure that our firm is registered there and we have appointed an US agent. Then list your device and register your company on the FDA website. This I have already mentioned as per 21 CFR Part 807. Contact manufacturers and sterilizers must also register. Now suppose if you are going to manufacture these medical devices from third party, contact manufacturer, or you are manufacturing and you have done a sterility test by using some other third party, then all those third parties also have to be registered. Like we call it as third party should also be USFDA registered or USFDA approved. In pharma industry also we have seen most of the samples when we send for the third party analysis like particle size analysis, XRD, diffraction, when we don't have equipment at our side, then also we see to that all those laboratories have equipment, but at the same time they are USFDA approved laboratory. Then only the data or the results coming from those laboratory will be acceptable to USFDA. So all these are mandatory requirements. Please keep in mind. So now, after following all these above 10 steps, you are now ready to sell you are now able to sell your device in the US. Once you get the marketing approval, everything is done, then you are ready to market. So the FDA listing on their website will serve as your authorization to commercialize your device in the US. So I hope you understood the US FDA in brief, how it is categorized, how it is the predicate device is selected, categorized, and how the 510K application is prepared. Then which category comes under PMA, which category comes under 510K, how we apply, how you the FDA comes for the audit and inspection. Then we have to follow quality management system, QSR as per 21 CFR Part 820. Your firm has to be registered. So all these things are very, very important when you are dealing with USFDA. Now, let us talk about European classification. Under Europe, there are 4 to 5 classification. How they have classified? Class 1, Class 2A, 2B, and Class 3. So under 1 also they have mentioned non-majoring and majoring, sterile, non-sterile class and the sterile class. Then Class 2A and 2B, under Class 2A and 2B they have written as medium risk, high risk, and highest risk. Class 3 is always highest risk. So in short, if you compare with the US FDA, there are 3 classes only if you see low risk, medium, and high. But under low and under medium and under high, they have divided into non-sterile, sterile. And here, if you see 2A, 2B. In 2A means medium risk, 2B means little high risk, but 3 is always highest risk. So please remember when you are going for the interview, if somebody asks how the medical devices are classified in Europe as compared to US. So these are the classifications. Then there is a common question coming to our mind. What is the CE marking all about? You might have seen all, even if you are you have seen your mobile phone is CE mark. Or lots of equipment. If you go to dentist, you see all the items, all the equipments used for our dental surgery or anything. It is CE mark. Then you see the catheters, the stent, the implants which are coming from Europe, all those items, all those medical devices has CE mark. So CE mark is a popular word, but you should understand what is it exactly. So CE mark is nothing but it is a European conformity. Okay. So in French, it is called conformity européenne, which literally means European conformity. So try to understand what is the CE mark because it is very important aspect when you want to enter into Europe. The term initially used was EC mark because of what? European conformity, and it was officially replaced by CE marking in the directives 93 by 68 by EEC in 1993. Okay, then CE mark is now used in all official documents. So CE marking on a product is a manufacturer's declaration that the product complies with the essential requirements of the relevant European health, safety and environmental protection legislation in practice by many of the so-called product directives. So I have told this during your European regulatory system lectures as well. So Europe always follows what? Directives, and US always follows those 21 CFR parts. So you have to remember what is the difference between US and Europe. So there it is used CFR parts, here it is used directives. So in C, they use 93 by 68 EEC directives in which it should comply with the essential requirements of the relevant European health, safety and environmental protection legislation. Then product directives contains the essential requirements and or performance levels and harmonized standards to which the products must conform. Harmonized standards are the technical specifications, that is European standard on harmonization documents, which are established by the several European standard agencies. So there are a couple of agencies existing in Europe, that is CEN, CEN, etc. So CEN stands for European Committee for Standardization, whereas CENELEC stands for European Committee for Electrochemical Standardization. So what is CE mark? CE marking on a product indicates to governmental official that the product may be legally placed on the market in their country. CE marking on a product ensures the free movement of the product within the IFTA and European Union. IFTA is European Federal Trade Union and European Union single market. So out of total, that is 28 to 30 countries, you can sell your product in any of these countries, that is whole Europe. Okay, so you can freely move. Once you get the CE mark, you can sell your product to all whole Europe, that means about 29 to 30 countries. The CE marking on a product permits the withdrawal of the non-conforming products by customs and enforcement vigilance authorities. So let us see what are the general principles of the CE marking. So the affixing to a product of marking, sign or inscriptions which are likely to mislead third parties regarding the meaning or form of the CE marking shall be prohibited. Any other marking may be affixed to the product provided that the visibility, legibility, and meaning of the CE marking is not thereby impaired. Then, member states shall ensure the correct implementation of the regime governing the CE marking and take appropriate action in the event of improper use of the marking. Member states shall also provide for penalties for infringement, which may include criminal sanction for serious infringements. Those penalties shall be proportionate to the seriousness of the offense and constitute an effective deterrent against improper use. So, you don't have chance to copy that C mark and the number. C mark means the number is also given to along with the CE mark certificate. So once you get the CE mark or the certificate, that number will be used on a particular product. Suppose if you are using a medical device with so many components, so each component has to be submitted with a separate application. I will give a simple example of PPE kit. Say for example, I want to take my PPE kit to Europe market and I want to get it CE mark. So PPE kit comprises of what? Face shield, the nose mask, the body cover, then hand gloves, then shoe cover. Suppose there are five components which comprises of PPE kit. So whole kit I cannot make a one single application for the full kit. So we have to separately take CE mark and separately because it acts as a separate device and we have to pay the separate fees for each individual component which makes one medical device, one kit. Similarly, there are so many rapid device kit, and you go to suppose in blood testing laboratory, you must have seen there are a couple of tests, thyroid test, then urine test, calcium test, how the samples are withdrawn and separated for different tests. So different reagent, different biomedical reagents have been used. So like that, you have to take and you have to meet the compliance requirement for each component, each ingredient, and you go for the approval. Though it is used for one single test. Then CE marking shall be affixed only by the manufacturer or his authorized representative. The CE marking shall be affixed only to products to which its affixing is provided by specific community harmonization legislation and shall not be affixed to any other product. As I told you, if there are several components, it should be affixed only to the product to which its affixing is provided for the specific community harmonization legislation. Then by affixing or having affixed the CE marking, the manufacturer indicates that he takes responsibility for the conformity of the product with all applicable requirements set out in the relevant community harmonization legislation providing for its affixing. The CE marking shall be the only marking which attests the conformity of the product with the applicable requirement of the relevant community harmonization legislation providing for its affixing. Then let us understand about the competent authority. What is meant by competent authority? What is meant by notified body? So each country has their one competent authority. Like in India, we have DCGI, CDSU. Like in Europe, each country within the Europe and partner countries has a competent authority. The competent authority is a body within the government of the member state that transposes the requirement of the medical device directives into national law. So the competent authority is also responsible for specifying one or more notified bodies to act as an independent third party assessors of the manufacturer's compliance. Now, the competent authority in UK is the UK MHRA. I will give a simple example of India. Now, in India, we have a main competent body is DCGI, our central body, but there are state level bodies, right? So we call it as local FDA. In Maharashtra, we have state FDA. In Gujarat, it's Gujarat state FDA. In Karnataka, in Telangana. Like that, in Europe also, UK MHRA is the main competent body, but there are several other notified bodies available in each other country, because Europe comprises of 29 to 30 countries. Like this, we also have 29 districts in India also, if you see. So we have to remember there is always a one competent authority, that is called CA, for each country. But there could be number of notified bodies which can be representative of each country. Okay, each small country. In India, it is called district. So notified body. The competent authority, I hope you understood the definition, now talks about notified body. The role of a notified body is to conduct a conformity assessment under the relevant EU directives. The notified body conducts the conformity assessment against the relevant sections of the applicable directive, that is MDD or IMED or IVDD. We will see the full forms also. Okay, the conformity assessment. Now I want to tell your MDD has changed to MDR now, because this is old directive. So from 2017, MDD had changed to MDR, and the implementation time is going on. They had given 3 years, but now one more year is extended due to COVID. We will speak about it in the next session when we talk about European system separately. So the conformity assessment usually involves an audit of the manufacturer's quality systems, and depending upon the particular classification of the device, a review of the relevant technical documentation provided by the manufacturer in support of the safety and performance claims for the device. So the technical documentation is assessed against the essential requirements set out within the EU directives and considers the relevant guidance set out by the Europe. So once the notified body has determined a manufacturer has conformed to the relevant assessment criteria, it issues a CE certificate to show that products assessed meet the requirement. And the clinicians and the other healthcare professionals in any EU country. So notified body is what? What is the role of notified body? Is to conduct the conformity assessment, correct? And they provide the report. They give the CE certificate, and which will again, produce to your main competent authority. So the manufacturer signs a declaration of conformity and applies the CE mark with or without the notified body number. So manufacturers are free to choose a suitable notified body, ensuring that they are qualified and experienced with the product to be certified. So there are over EU notified bodies in total that can certify to the medical devices directives. However, not all the notified bodies can certify to all categories of medical device products holding a CE mark from any of the 70 plus notified bodies can be marketed to patients and pharmacists. So we will see in the next lecture that how the European medical devices approval process is, because MDD has this MDD 9385 ECC had changed to MDR now 745. So we have to stick to now new MDR, and which is already under implementation. So this is the MDD is the old process. So I will skip this old process because there is no point in discussion of this old process. So in the next lecture, I will take full European procedure and the other part of the medical devices. So this was the overview of Europe and US medical devices and how the CE marking is done. What is the meaning of competent authority? What is the meaning of notified body? Okay, let us now discuss about TGA Australia. So again, TGA Australia and Europe, if you have seen, the category is more or less similar. The non-sterile, that is class 1, right? The sterile class 1, then again class 2A, 2B and class. So if you see the risk wise how they have classified, class 1 non-sterile is a low risk, class 1 sterile it's a medium risk, then class 2A again medium risk, class 2B it is high risk, class 3 highest risk. So how the Australian TGA medical device approval takes place? First step is determine classification using Schedule 2 of the Australian Therapeutic Goods, that is TGA under medical device regulation. And if a device has a European CE marking, the classification will likely be the same. So here I would like to say, once you have entered into Europe, and if you get the CE mark, you can sell your product worldwide. So that route becomes very easy for you to enter into Australia and most of the other countries as well. That is why people are behind getting CE mark. You know, once they develop or design a product, start manufacturing, everybody is behind, quality management certification, that is 13485, and getting CE mark. So here you can see the classification will likely be the same. When if you have the CE mark, European CE mark, you can easily enter into TGA. So a CE marking certificate from a notified body is generally accepted by the TGA as part of your registration. So if you have no local presence in Australia, then appoint an Australian sponsor. Then the sponsor facilitates your device registration, acts as a liaison between the manufacturer and the TGA, and the sponsor's name and must appear on your device and the labeling. So how we go for US FDA also? In US FDA also we appoint our US agent. If you don't have your own office, if you have your own presence there, if you have your own office registered at the US address, then there is no point in registration. So your employees who are residing in USA and having the US address can act as a US agent. So there is no need to appoint a separate US agent. So similarly in TGA also, if you want to enter into Australia, you have to appoint one sponsor in TGA Australia, and you can proceed further. So have current technology technical file or the design dossier, for example class 3, and declaration of conformity ready for submission. Then for all devices except class 1 non-sterile, non-measuring, sponsor submits manufacturer's evidence, that is CE marking certificate, in EBS system for TGA's review and acceptance. So they have electronic system for the submission. How we submit the eCTD in US FDA or Europe or Canada or Japan. Like that, they have EBS system in TGA. Then class 3 devices will undergo level 2 application audit, and the design dossier is reviewed by the authority. Then for all classes, the Australian sponsor submits medical device application online in EBS system. The application should include intended purpose statement, classification and GMDM code, pay application fee. Then the TGA will approve or reject your application. If approved by the TGA, an Australian, that is ARTG, listing number will be issued. Then ARTG certificate inclusion and your listing will be included in the ARTG database on the TGA website. What does it mean? The TGA will approve or reject your application, right? If approved, we get the ARTG. If it is not approved, then it will not be listed. Once you will get the ARTG, it will be you will get the number and your product will be listed on their website. So you may now begin marketing your device in Australia. Registration do not expire as long as you do not make the changes to the device that would invalidate the ARTG listing. Current CE marking certificate, if applicable, is on file with the TGA, and the annual ARTG listing fees is paid. So we will stop a little while. Okay, so let us continue with the Health Canada. So Health Canada again, the classification is based on low risk to highest risk. So Health Canada, you will see the difference. Only in Canada, you will see there is a class 4 devices. So that is the difference between US, Europe, then we have seen the TG also. But here you can see class 1, 2, 3 and 4. Whereas we have not seen class 4 in previous countries like US, Europe and TGA. So please remember that here only Health Canada has the classification as class 1, 2, 3, 4. So how do we take the marketing approval in Canada? The step one is to determine the classification of your medical device according to Schedule 1 of the Canadian Medical Device Regulation, which is called CMDR. The devices fall into class 1, class 2, class 3 and class 4. We have seen. For all devices except class 1, implement ISO 13485-203 quality management system. That includes the additional specific requirements of the CMDR and standard ISO 13485. Always use the standards of current years. Okay, 13485 2016 is going on. So this is the ISO standard which we have to use everywhere, and which is very strict standards in the in the medical device industry, and it is a mandatory requirement for all manufacturers to go for. Even in India, they ask for the ISO certification 13485 2016. So it is often used by the companies selling in European market, does not meet Canadian requirements. Okay. So for all updates to the existing procedures or the new procedures must be implemented. So for all devices except class 1 ISO 13485 quality system re-audited by the registrar accredited by Health Canada under the Canadian Medical Device Conformity Assessment, that is CMDCAS. Several large European notified bodies also act as the Canadian registrars. So, your new ISO certificate will be issued upon successful completion of the audit. Then, for class 1 device, apply for a medical device establishment license, that is MDEL. For class 2 and 3 and 4 devices, apply a Canadian medical device license, that is MDL. So MDEL is what? Medical Device Establishment License, and MDL is a Canadian Medical Device License. So these are the two applications for different classes of medical device. Then apply for this device. Then compared to US 510K application, MDL applications are simpler for class 2 device and about the same for class 3 device. So class 4 MDL applications are comparable to the US PMA application, pre-market application. So note that an MDL application is for the device itself, whereas an MDEL is a permit for the distributor and importer or the manufacturer of class 1 device. So very simple, the MDL is used for the lower class of devices, and it shows that once you get the MDL, you are ready to, it is a sort of permit through which you can distribute or import your medical device. And MDL is what? It is as good as a US patent K application. Then for class 1 device, submit MDL application, prepare mandatory procedure and pay Health Canada fees for class 2 device, Health Canada fees and go ahead. For class 2, submit MDL application, IFU is a intent for use. The label is very important. The intended purpose is, has to be mentioned. Then declaration of conformity and ISO 13485 certificate, pay Health Canada fees for class 3-4 devices, submit MDL application plus declaration of conformity, ISO certificate, IFU and pre-market review document following the STAD format, that is summary of technical documentation, which may include clinical data. Clinical data collected outside Canada is generally accepted. Then pay Health Canada fees and go ahead. Then for class 4 device, Health Canada will review your MDL application and pre-market review document. So class 4 is exactly is what? Pre-market review, pre-market application. Here we have mentioned class 4 MDL application are comparable to US PMA application. So more or less, if you see, Canada follows US FDA type of procedure for the class 3 and class 4. That is 510K and PMA. Then once the approved application will be posted, once you get the approval, the approved application will be posted on Health Canada website. Then you are now allowed to sell your medical device in Canada. Licenses do not expire, but you must pay annual fee to the Health Canada. Failure to pay fees will result in your approval license being revoked. Now we'll see how the Japanese people have classified their devices. So here also you see class 1, class 2, 2 again divided into two types, that is specified control and control. So class 1 is general classification, which is of low risk. Class 2 divided into two categories, that is specified control and control, which is of medium risk. Class 3 is highly controlled, that is higher risk. And class 4 again highly controlled and which comes under highest risk. So how the Japanese medical device approval process is? First step is determine classification of your device according to Japanese Pharmaceutical and Medical Device Act, which is also called PMDA, and Japanese Medical Device Nomenclature, that is JMDN codes. Devices are segmented into general class 1 medical devices, specified controlled class 2 medical devices, controlled class 2 medical devices highly, that is highly, the class 3 medical devices for highly controlled class 4 medical devices. So we have seen in the previous slide, so you have to categorize, you have to classify your own device as per this Japanese PMDA Act and GMDN codes, under which category you are falling, whether it is class 1, 2, 3 or 4. Then appoint marketing authorization holder, that is MAH, to manage your device approval process in Japan. Of course, Japan is the most difficult Japanese language, or China. Whenever you go into China, so it's very difficult. There is always a language barrier. So you have to appoint a Japanese agent, what we call it as Japanese appoint marketing authorization holder in Japan to manage your device approval process. So your MAH or DMAH will control your device registration. And then manufacturers must register their facility. So everywhere you have to register your facility and pay the registration fees every year, the renewal fees every year, like in US, Europe, Canada, Japan, everywhere we have to, keep our facility alive. How we keep our product renewal also after 3 years, or sorry, after 5 years, we are going to renew our product license. So similar our facility also, because there are chances you might change your facility address, firm address, you might shift. So you have to maintain that record with the respective health authority. Then implement quality management system which complies with the PAL and the Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare, that is MHLW, Ordinance number 169, which is based on ISO standards. Then for class 1 devices, submit pre-market submission to PMDA. For specified control class 2, submit pre-market certification application to registered certified body, that is RCB, authorized to issue certification. For control class 2, highly controlled class 3 and highly controlled class 4 device, prepare pre-market approval application as well as registration dossier in summary technical document, that is state format, to PMDA, and all document must be in Japanese. So that is why here it's very difficult to crack this Japanese approval, and you have to appoint the agent and who will do all these things. You have to give your documentation in English, get it translated into Japanese language, and he will be the local point contact with the health authority, and for getting our marketing approval for medical device which falls under category 1 to 3. Some class 1 devices require QMS conformity assessment by PMDA. Specified control class 2 device will have QMS audit by RCB, and control class 2, highly controlled class 3 and highly controlled class 4 device will undergo QMS audit by PMDA. So as you go higher and higher, the risk is involved more. So that is why audit is required. So Japanese people will come and audit your facility, and on-site audits are typically required for new devices with no existing JMDN code, class 4 devices, and those requiring clinical investigation. So generally, you just have to remember class 3, 4 or class 2, 3, 4, where the clinical evidence, clinical data is submitted for the new medical device. That facility has to undergo for the inspection by PMDA. So this is a common logic applied for each health authority for the critical devices, and which coming under high risk. Then all classes will require a QMS conformance certificate issued by PMD, DA or the RCB. Then specified control class 2 devices will have pre-market certificate issued by RCB, and the control class 2, highly controlled class 3 and highly controlled class 4 devices will have pre-market approval certificate issued by MHLW. So class 1 device have no certificate issued. So very simple, they have stated that class 2 onwards, it's a pre-market certificate issued by RCB, whereas only class 1 device have no certificate required, no certificate is issued. So rest all is required, the certificate issued by the RCB. How we call it as notified body and the competent authority in Europe. Similar way, their PMD and this RCB plays an important role. So all classes after submission, certification or approval, the MH or agent must submit import notification to Regional Bureau of Health and Welfare. In the meantime, reimbursement application should be filed with Economic Affairs Division of MHLW if applicable. Then you may now begin marketing your device in Japan. Approvals do not expire. The device registration do not expire. However, to maintain quality management system certification, periodic audits will be conducted. The schedule will be determined by the RCB or PMDA. Now, we'll talk about Middle East region, that is MENA. So the medical devices market in MENA region area presents unique challenges and opportunities to international manufacturers in healthcare sector. So despite of the overall positive economic development in most of the MENA countries, the regulatory environment can be challenging. Publicly accessible written legislations are limited in these countries, sometimes are only available in the local language, mostly Arabic. So you must have seen Arabia, all the MENA region, Abu Dhabi and Qatar and all those people use the Arabic language as a local language. So also important to mention in this context are the barriers for the continuing evolution of the regulatory environment in some of the emerging countries due to their political instability and non-transparency. So a couple of Middle East countries, if you see, they are highly political, and there is a language barrier as such, and there are very strict rules for the male, female, and we have seen they are not transparent. So because of that, they are unable to develop, and there are lots of political instability, and due to which there is a I would not say a huge scope, but like moderate scope to enter into this MENA region for the healthcare sector, that's medical devices. But now due to COVID, all countries have opened up, and the entry is open into all countries for marketing medical devices in different ranges, different classes. So that one should take the advantage of. So in MENA region, if you see Saudi Arabia, that is SFDA is the biggest health authority, and they understand the English language also. Though some part of the administrative we have to translate into Arabic. The administrative forms also we have to fill it in Arabics, because I personally dealt with SFDA, for one of my client for the medical device and for the pharmaceutical product as well. So I know how to deal with SFDA. So SFDA is nothing but Saudi Food and Drug Authority, and which is operational since 2009 and established in 2006. So SFDA is an independent body with an independent budget and managed by the board of directors. Okay, so this is the general information and reports directly to the Premier of the Council of Members. And SFDA took overall responsibilities from MOH in July 2009. So SFDA is a big body, you may call it as MOH, Ministry of Health in Saudi Arabia. So what is the regulatory requirement in Saudi Arabia? SFDA was authorized to regulate Saudi Arabia's medical device market in 2007 by the Council of Ministry Resolution 181. So SFDA created the medical device interim regulation in 2008. Then the Foundation for Registering Medical Devices, Medical Device National Registry, that is MDNR, to register manufacturers and distributor. The National Center for Medical Device Reporting, that is NCMDR, to manage recalls. Then Medical Device Establishment Licensing System, that is MDEL, to issue the product licenses. And the legislation did not come into full force until August 2011. But in February 2011, the law stipulated that medical devices with SFDA marketing authorization could be placed on the market. But since August 2011, only SFDA authorized medical devices can be marketed, while device in use at that date can still be used. So what is the role of MDMA, that is medical device marketing authorization? So electronic system to authorize medical device after they comply with the medical devices interim regulation, that is MDIR, and the implementing rules of MDS IR 6. So local manufacturer or ARs apply electronically for the marketing authorization. Applicant must be a licensed AR holding MDL for each foreign manufacturer falling under his responsibility or valid MDNR number in case of local manufacturers. Then MDMA is required for all medical devices and their accessories supplied to the KSA market. Then contact lenses and the laser equipment for cosmetic rather than medical purposes and for accessories. So this is a general information required for the registration of medical device in SFDA. First is application form, which is common. It is selection according to the origin of classification certificate. Then the contact details of the manufacturer, establishment national registry number, name and contact details of the person, information on manufacturer and MBNR number, manufacturing site, country of origin, generic name, device brand name, model, custom code, GMDN number, GMDM code, copy of C certificate, ISO certificate, then pre-market. Suppose if you have already existing C certificate in Europe, then it becomes again easy for you to enter into SFDA, Saudi Arabia. Even in US FDA, if you have 510K, you can easily enter into Saudi Arabia. So otherwise, if you are a newcomer, you have to register your firm and get your ISO certification done for your facility, make the technical file and give all the documents all this information, fill up the application, establishment registration and your device details, generic name, country of origin. Suppose if your country is India and manufacturing site is Dubai, then you have to make note of it. So you have to mention those addresses with the details. So prior to being sold in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, that is KSA, medical devices must receive marketing authorization from the SFDA under the interim regulation issued on December 2008. So, step one is what your device must have prior market authorization in one of the following reference market. So, as I said, if you have a CE mark in Europe and by 10 in US, you get an easy entry. So, like that, there are a couple of other countries they have mentioned. If your device has prior market authorization from Australia, Canada, Europe, Japan, or USA. The device classification in your reference market will determine the classification of your device in the KSA, that is Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Then appoint a KSA authorized representative, that is AR, authorized representative to manage your device registration in Saudi Arabia. So AR is nothing but your local agent. So your representative must be licensed with the SFDA and you must have the contract legalized between you and your AR. Your AR must present the legalized AR contract to the SFDA for review and will obtain a license permitting them to represent you in the Saudi market. The license must be renewed each year and there it is a so everywhere you have to renew the license, right? And you have to register your form. Then prepare medical device marketing authorization, that is MDMA. Application and submit through your authorized representative. The application includes device labeling, intent for use, that is IFU, promotional material, proof of regulatory approval in your reference market, and quality system certification, if applicable, that is ISO certificate. Labeling, promotional material, and IFU must be in English and Arabic. So this is a mandatory requirement. As I said, most of the administrative document which goes, if you consider CTD in module 1, what we submit the administrative document, those all goes in their local language. Even if you consider Japan, China, Russia, SFDA, so their local language we have to use to submit this document. Similarly, your promotional material, label, all this goes in their local language. So English only is acceptable for professional use devices. Then the MDMA application is reviewed for the completeness by the SFDA, then passed to the third party conformity assessment body, that is CAB, for the technical review. The technical review is rigorous and detailed. Multiple rounds of questions are not uncommon. Then the SFDA makes the final decision based on the recommendation received from the CAB, your competent body. Once the device is approved, the SFDA issues the MDMA certificate and you may begin marketing your device in Saudi Arabia. So class 1 device registration are valid for 3 years. Device registration for the other classes are valid for the remaining terms of validity in the reference country you have chosen. If there is an explicit expiration date, or 3 years if the regulatory approval is open-ended, example FDA 510K clearance. Then UAE. So UAE again, it is one of the Ministry of Health which is popular in GCC. So here healthcare in general is regulated at both the federal and emirate level. So United State of Emirates, and that is why it is a federal body the regulated by both federal and the emirate level. However, the registration of healthcare devices is regulated by UAE Medical Device Registration Guideline, herein referred to as the registration guideline, issued by Ministry of Health. Setting out the requirements for an application for regulatory approval, the registration guideline is aimed at maintaining a balance between ensuring product safety, quality, and effectiveness, and providing the public with timely access to medical devices and preventing the entry of unsafe or ineffective devices into the market. So, as I always speak about any health authority's main objective is to protect public health, and to protect public health, we have to meet safety, quality, right? So, safety, quality, and effectiveness is very important everywhere. So, similar to UAE also. So, the manufacturer or its local authorized representative is required to apply to the Committee on Medical Device Registration at MOH in order to register their medical devices prior to first placement on the local market. So a committee, which is referred to as the committee, is competent to decide on an application. This is in turn under the supervision of the Drug Control Department, which itself is a division of MOH. So let us see all the steps involved to getting marketing approval in UAE. So first step is preparation of company registration documents, that is application form, company name, country of origin, address, name of the authority that issued the business license, information regarding the manufacturing facility, and description of the principal activities, list of manufacturing sites, subsidiaries, information regarding the quality management system, ISO standards, then description of documentation procedure or any SOPs, list of products with their main description, details of the local distributor and the local representative, copy of medical store license, agencies or agreement. You must have heard about UAE or GCC area. There are lots of distributor who help us to distribute. So as compared to manufacturer, there are lots of distributor. So once you register your product in Europe, US, and other countries, you can directly take those products to the distributor in UAE, and you can sell into the UAE market. But if you are the originally belongs to Saudi Arabia, then we have discussed how to apply, to the registration procedure, and we have discussed the steps earlier. How to make the application and all. Registration file should be submitted. Then preparation of the product registration document. Here you can see the attachment is referred as ABCDEFG. So under ABCDEFG, it is required as application form, regulatory approval, FSCC certificate, then the post-marketing requirement, vigilance system, risk assessment, status of device distribution, that is list of countries. As I said, if your device is already existing in US, India, Europe, Canada, or somewhere, you have to give the status of those device distribution. Labeling, 3 copies artwork, product name, etc. Then declaration of conformity, safety and effectiveness data, manufacturing process, special requirement, that is manufactured from animal origin, like GMO and all certificate we have to provide in the special under the special requirement. So how this classification is done? Main class is under required attachment under each class to be attached to the application in same order. So that is why here we have given the ABCD A to J, and under A to J, what all documents are required. Here, class wise, we have divided. Now you can see class 1, that is general. What all documents are required? Class 1 general, that is for sterile and or measurement. These are the documents required. Whereas class 2, these are the class 3 and class. So this chart is very easy to understand for each class. So each, see, the to be attached to the application in same order numbering. So the order numbering is very important. You can see A, B, but not C, D, correct? So after A, B, this is not applicable, E1, F. So you have to maintain this sequence. Okay, so the numbering sequence, as we have seen in the previous slide, what is A, what is B, what is C. So this sequence has to be maintained for different categories of the medical devices. Then the main classes and required attachment under each class to be attached to application in the same order numbering. So if the ministry accepts the file, it is then passed to the final committee at the ministry. a committee is competent to decide on an application. This is in turn under the supervision of the Drug Control Department, which itself is a division of Ministry of Health. The committee meets 4 times a year to review all the applications filed and determine on a case-by-case basis which companies can be registered with the ministry as approved importers of the medical devices. Once these companies have been registered, they are then eligible to obtain import permits for the medical devices to be sold in UAE. So if for any reason the file is rejected, the committee will provide reason as to why. This permits the company to make necessary adjustment and make a new application once compliance has been achieved. So in this way, we have discussed about US, Europe, Canada, Japan, Australia, and SFDA and UAE. So in this way, we have covered today's lecture of the overview of medical devices, how it is categorized in different countries, and how the application is submitted to get the marketing approval. Thanks for your kind attention, and now we'll close this lecture and open up for the question. Thank you very much. So, as I could see the couple of questions, what is GMDN? What is, Madam, India is not covered. So, India is a separate topic because we have covered this globe first. Okay, so next time we are going to cover Europe. Europe is left because India and European MDR rule had changed. So we have taken this, we have kept this topic as a separate topic. Those who must have attended my seminar on medical devices, like Smriti, I think you have attended. So you are aware of, right? So
Yes.
India and Europe, mostly these two countries are under implementation of MDR rule. So we will cover those two countries separately. Okay. So GMDN, Smriti, you have attended. You tell what is GMDN?
Ma'am, even I have noted this question because this
Global.
is the medical device nomenclature, but G, I don't know. I think even I.
Actually, that number is given by some body. Actually,
Yeah.
I have not gone through this GMDN process personally. But GMDN is a global medical device nomenclature. The full form is okay. And like how we give the IUPAC name or numbering system. If you Google, you can get the answer. And if you want me to find out answer, I will WhatsApp in our group. Okay. The second question I will take up India. As I said, I will be covering India and Europe in the next lecture. Then Mrudula, you have some question. Nita, now you can unmute.
Yeah, unmuted ma'am.
Unmute कर सगळ्यांना.
Hello.
सगळ्यांना केलं ना.
Okay.
Hi, ma'am.
Yes.
This is Mridula here.
Yeah, Mrudula.
Actually, in the chart which you showed for UAE MOH,
Hmm. Hmm.
there were attachments like E1 to 18 or 1 to 11. And
Ah.
when we checked in the list, E stands for the IL part or the ingredients, the labeling part, and
Ah.
certain other documents. So, what does that E1 to 18 or 1 to 11 means in
So
that particular?
have you checked in our book?
No, ma'am, I don't have the book.
Okay. So what we will do, we will send this presentation PDF along with the relevant guidances and relevant document. Like ISO also you have to learn, 13485 standard. These are very important.
Yes.
Quality
Yes.
management system is very, very important. So this ISO standard we have to purchase, you won't get freely available on internet. But what we have
Okay.
already purchased and we have made the copy, okay? So I will send the scan copy for your review. So try to
Okay.
read, okay? And we have made one different presentation also, ISO PPT in short. So if you want me to, instead of reading whole standard, you can read that PPT, okay? What is the quality
Okay.
management system? How it is implemented in medical device sector? Because GMP we hear, day and night. So GMP, GLP we are used to, but
Yes.
QMS, QSR is very important. Then 21 CFR part, 820. You read that part. You just Google and download and read it out. Okay.
Okay.
So I will ask Neeta also to download and send it to you. It would be easy for you to refer to. Okay.
Okay.
And any other question? And then under UAE, I will give that E1 to 11, what is mentioned in the chart. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
See, all those document labeling requirement for each device, it would be different.
Okay.
Am I right? Suppose if you are getting this MA marketing authorization for pacemaker.
Hmm.
Pacemaker will have different labeling, different component.
Yes.
Am I right?
Correct.
Similarly, if you go for bandage, simple bandage, what will be the requirement? Am I right?
Correct.
So the classification of medical device is very important from easy to complex. Okay, when you go higher and higher, so there are medical engineers, the electronic engineers, biomedical engineers are mainly hired for the designing level. If you see CT scanner, MRI, those are
Mm-hmm.
so complex medical
Yes.
devices. So one medical device might contain 500 electronic components. You got my
Yes.
point? How one
Yes.
tablet comprises of one API plus 10
Right.
excipient, 10 to 20, whatever.
Whatever.
Some
Right.
excipient, some in some nature, there could be 2 to 3 excipient. But in medical devices, component varies from 500 to 1000. So that
Right.
is why the designing concept is very important. Design and development of medical device. We have seen very simple medical device like bandage and dentist के पास जो रहता है ना. But if
Uh,
you go for technical file and you go for the design file, it's very difficult to understand. For me also, very difficult because I have to take the help from the engineers to review the
right.
technical file because I'm not
Technical
expert
part.
in that.
Right. Okay.
But of course, if you understand the regulatory process, if you understand the quality management process, if you understand the categorizing of medical devices, that becomes your job easy. These three things you have to remember whenever you get an opportunity to work in medical devices. Then again, predicate device. Predicate device is a reference product, right, which is available in the market.
Okay.
तो जैसे भगवत गीता इस बहुत बड़ी होती है उसका सार मैंने बताया है ना 3-4 चीजें आप याद रखो
Okay.
this conformity assessment also I will take during European lecture. Okay, conformity assessment is nothing but how we release the COA. Tell me, certificate of analysis. You might have seen in pharma industry when we analyze your product, right? We release the product. How we release? We give the certificate, the QA person give us the certificate of analysis. Am I right? So what it stands for? It complies to the specification. Now suppose एक example ले लो tablet. Now tablet का COA ले लो. How I will review? Tell me. Tablet का COA. The first test will be what?
The
Appearance.
hardness or
Description. Appearance, right? So
appearance.
you must have seen the description or the appearance of the tablet, which is complies. अभी समझो monograph में complies as per USP. Am I right? तो आप स्पेसिफिकेशन के साथ उसको मैच करते हो, जो टेस्टिंग किया है, जो रिजल्ट आया है आपके एनालिटिकल डिपार्टमेंट से, and then only the CO is released and approved by what? QA person. Am I right? So conformity assessment means whatever test, whatever specification has been set during this design and development, okay, it is assessed by a body and the conformity assessment or compliance certificate is given. And this is a very important topic and which is mandatory requirement for the Europe, conformity assessment. Okay, ma'am, how much time does it take? Each country takes a different time. If you ask me US, the 510K it takes around 4 to 8 months. Okay, 510K because I have handled, I know. In SFDA, it took 6 to 9 months. Then in Europe, to get the CE marks, now we are applying for the PP. So they said us 4 to 8 months because now due to COVID, each country has shaken. There is no staff for the working. So we are also struggling to get, the marketing application because all people, because of Modi's announcement कि आत्मनिर्भर बनना है, so everybody is into, making masks, making PP, making so many medical devices. If you see thermometer, you get varieties of thermometer. If you see the hand wash, hand rubs, uh, varieties of, you will get the disinfectant. So all these comes under medical devices. So the medical devices definition, mitigation, cure, and what diagnosis, but prevention of disease. So prevention of disease means what? If you wear the overall coverall means PPE. PPE is what? Personal protective equipment. Okay. So PPE जब एक डॉक्टर या एक नर्स पहनता है, okay, so it protects from other, the other virus attack or other fluid. अभी समझो ऑपरेशन कर रहे हैं डॉक्टर, सर्जरी, ब्लड एकदम उछल रहा है या कुछ सलाइन है वो आ गया, तो it won't affect his body, right? So it is mitigation, cure and prevention of disease. जो भी ये definition में बैठता है ना, it comes under medical device. So medical devices पुराने जमाने में थोड़ा बहुत relaxation था, but now all the medical devices will be treated as a drug. Okay. Anyone has any question? अभी नेक्स्ट वीक मैं क्या करूंगी, सबको नीता सबको
Yes, ma'am.
एक ही ग्रुप में मर्ज करना.
Okay, ma'am.
हाँ,
Okay, ma'am.
दैट मीन्स वो कम्युनिकेशन के लिए अपने को भी इजी रहेगा. एक ही ग्रुप में वी कैन सेंड एवरीथिंग
Okay.
बिकॉज henceforth both the batches will be invited. अभी ये अक्टूबर बैच का 2-3 ही लेक्चर हो गए, उसके बाद भी उनको अटेंड करना है तो लेट देम अटेंड, अदरवाइज दे कैन नॉट अटेंड. या
Okay, fine, ma'am. Yeah.
So any other question from Umra, from Shraddha, Yogita? Then one boy is there na, only one boy. चारों तरफ गोपियां, बीच में कन्हैया है. नूतन, लतिका, आकाश ना, नाव काय त्याचं विसरले मी.
आकाश.
आकाश.
हाँ मैम आकाश.
हाँ आकाश, काय क्वेश्चन वगैरह?
नहीं मैम, फिलहाल तो एक बार रीड वगैरह करेंगे तो और बेटर समझेगा.
हाँ, क्या होता है ये उतना फीलिंग नहीं आएगा जितना हम लोग क्लासरूम में पढ़ाते हैं.
हाँ
क्योंकि मुझे भी पढ़ना ही है ना, पढ़ के बोलना है, मेरी भी एनर्जी खत्म हो जाती है, खाली रीड करना है ना. So just cooperate till अभी कोविड के लिए हम लोग कुछ भी नहीं कर
ये
सकते.
यस
So we are also
हम लोग भी
trying
एक बार
our
पढ़ेंगे
level.
तो फिर वो और बेटर हो जाएगा.
Yes, yes,
थोड़ा
yes.
बहुत और
What I
समझ.
will do within a day or two, Neeta, just remind me or you take this lead. Just make the PDF and send this PPT at least. Last time ka PPT, this PPT, both the PPT you send to all participants on email. Okay. And relevant documents जे आहेत ना ते जरा शोधून तुला मला आता कुठे ते archival मध्ये माहित नाही. You just search for those documents and you send those. Okay, guidance document. So guys, let us stop here. I have to go for cooking now. अभी. So dinner का time हो गया हमारा. Dinner means cooking. Then I have to go for dinner. So let us stop here. If you don't have any question, or if you have question, I will wait. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for your patient hearing. Even if you have later on आपके mind में कुछ आ गया सोते सोते तो just put on WhatsApp message. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
ma'am.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.